There are loads of ways that we can get our heads up when there are fairies nearby. We can see them, smell them, sense them, and hear them. In fact, perhaps the most unexpected sign that fairies are nearby are the strange noises they are known to make. And surely the best known sound of fairies is the cry of the Banshee. But did you know that on occasions she is also said to tap at windows and knock on doors where a person is about to die? About 20 years ago, when living in Meath, my father heard a Banshee. His neighbour by the name of Mary O'Donnell was sick, and the Banshee had been seen walking on the tops of the bushes near her home for several nights. It was summer, and my father was milking the cows out in the fields. When the cows heard the Banshee crying, they began to run through the fields in distress, and they wouldn't let him milk them. So he had to gently coax them into the byre to milk them. Only an hour after he did this, the Banshee went to Mary O'Donnell's house, tapped at the window where the girl lay, and she died. Then the Banshee disappeared. The cry of the Banshee may be the most recognisable of all fairy sounds, but it is far from the only one. I have a real mixed bag of true encounters with fairies who have made extraordinary sounds, perhaps to grab our attention or for their own amusement, or maybe they just can't help it. The first time I saw them with great vividness, I was lying on a hillside alone in the west of Ireland in County Sligo. I had been listening to music in the air and to what seemed to be the sound of bells, and was trying to understand these aerial clashings in which wind seemed to break upon wind in an ever-changing, musical, silvery sound. Then the space before me grew luminous, and I began to see one beautiful being after another appear before me, but paying me no attention. There's something ethereal about that sighting and the bell-like silvery sound. Although it must be said, laying on a hillside on your own in County Sligo, a very busy county for fairy sightings, is truly risky. But for that man, it proved to be a beautiful experience. Now for something completely different. Let's go to Southwest Florida, where an apparently everyday sound would change the lives of this couple forever. In the summer of 2007, my husband and I went out for an early walk. It was around 4 a.m. Well, it started to rain as we passed a parking lot, so we sat under this awning which covered an empty parking space. We were just sitting there quietly talking to each other and watching the rain when suddenly I heard the distinct sound of a whistle, the kind of strong, sharp whistle used to grab someone's attention, and it was coming from directly behind us. I should say that we were completely alone at this time. There was no one around anywhere. Well, I was startled at the sound of this whistle and swung my head around to see this thing flying right at me. It came so close to me, in fact, that it brushed my hair as it passed. Obviously, our first thought was that it was a large insect of some kind, but then it stopped flying and sort of hovered just a couple of feet in front of us, I remember thinking that this thing was completely unfazed by the rain. It only took us a moment to realise that it was no insect. It had dragonfly-like wings with about a 3 to 4 inch wingspan, but unlike a dragonfly or anything else I'd ever seen, it had nothing in the middle where its body should have been. We got a really good look at this thing as it hovered there in front of us, and it was definitely just a pair of wings. I can't explain it, but nothing else about it was visible. Well, we both just stared in utter disbelief. The thing, the wings, hovered in the rain. Then it moved closer to us, then moved back again. And this happened a few times. I'm sure it was doing this to sort of check us out, to get a better look at us. We were completely speechless the entire time. Neither of us could say a word. Then it flew away into the woods at the edge of the parking lot, and that was the last we saw of it. After it left, my husband, who it's worth mentioning is a hardcore atheist and makes fun of anything even mildly supernatural, whispered to me, dead serious, Did we just see a fairy? I can't say what it was we saw that day, but I will never, for as long as I live, forget the sound of that whistle. What do you think that was? You know, it's not unusual for fairy folk to take an interest in us, to check us out, and sometimes even play with us, as a cat does a mouse. But in that bizarre experience, it's clear the creature wanted the couple to see it, because it announced its presence with this loud whistle. Well, now, I have saved the strangest to last. This is a double dose of eeriness from County Kerry in Ireland. My father told me a terrible tale of this old man from the town that he was born in. He said this man lived and died an unlucky man. So one night this man was making the short walk home from Kenmare. It was late, and being winter, the night was dark and the weather was very bad, but he had walked this road many, many times. Well, as he walked, he heard the sound of 2 dogs barking at each other, seemingly on either side of the road that he walked. Well, this captured his attention because that place was known as a lonesome place, a place frequented by the fairy folk. The dogs became increasingly agitated and angry, so the man hastened his step for to pass through the place as quickly as he could. Just then a heavy shower of rain began to fall, so he pushed his way into some heavy hedges for to keep out of the rain. Well, the dogs fell silent, and a moment later, something which he described himself as the puka pushed its way into his shelter, saying, pull in, there is a she coming from the west, spitting out fire." Well, the man and the puka stayed there and listened as the she slowly approached and then passed them. The old man later described the sound of the she as a billowing or a rolling sound. Once the she had passed, the puka creature darted from the hedge without a word, and the man never saw it again. But the poor man himself, he made his way home, took to his bed, and never left it. He died soon after without doctor or priest, but only his family by his side. Can you imagine? Anything that frightens a puka must be utterly terrifying or dangerous, or both. But spare a thought for that poor man to watch as some creature or wraith approaches while crouched beside what he thought to be a puka. It is no wonder that man took to his bed. So, as ever, we find fairies are unpredictable. They can take any form or any sound, and it's up to us to keep our wits about us. If you enjoy my videos, please take a moment to support my channel. There are a few easy and safe ways. Just check out the links in the notes below. Any support would mean the world to me. Until next time, stay curious and be kind. Cheerio!